I think the intention here is to show you how low-budget scores are constructed. So I know that Rolf really wants to tell you about his Stradivarius musical saw. So go for it. Yeah, they're on.
We're in C.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're looking for the film.
Gotta find a film that we can do this on.
That's all we need is a film. One real musician.
Can you tell everybody what your instrument was that you were playing? In C?
No. That was the tanpura, which is it's typically played by amateur musicians or students in Indian classical music.
Yeah.
So it's very appropriately played by me. But it is Rolf's instrument. I just want to give credit. This
Actually,
was Rolf's concept, and we're just looking for the film to put this to. So if you have it.
Actually, these are all Rolf's instruments, right? Yeah. Rolf, what about the pocket trumpet that Mark played? Where'd you find that?
In Rolf's car.
Pocket, yeah.
In the trunk of Ralph's car. Yeah.
I can't remember where I got it, but yes, I felt, because I didn't have Mark's number, so I didn't want him. I wanted to make sure there was something we could all play, so
Right.
brought the trumpet.
Right.
And that trumpet's never been played. I mean, it's been played by me, so it's really never been played. And certainly, and he's just first time on that trumpet, and that's how he sounds. First time on a trumpet.
Well, we thank you. I have to say that this is actually the way, and it sounds silly, but this is actually the way sometimes scores get put together, sounds get put together by experimenting on instruments to see what the good notes are, what the bad notes are, who can play it, who can't play it. Like Rolf pointed out earlier, that we're talking about the difference between using huge groups and using very specific players, that every player has a very specific sound and a very specific characteristic. And sometimes you want to hire, as Mark did, actually as everybody has done here, hire very specific players for a very specific purpose to get a very specific sound as close as possible. So it's one of the things actually that film composers do. I have here a bunch of questions from the audience, and I'm taking them in no particular, well actually it is in a particular order. The first one I thought was fascinating, and I'm just going to open it up because I have my own bias on it. Unfortunately, I can't find the card any longer. Is it possible to write egoless, the question actually is more severe. Define egoless music. Is it possible? Is it advisable? Let's modify it this way. In the work that you do, the thing that I'm getting out of this evening is that it's not that you three guys are representative of any school such as alternative film writing, rather that you write music which you write. It's music that comes from you, music that you prefer to write, that you have a very large choice of things to write from, and you choose for whatever reason, either because of the director or because of the film or just because of your metabolism, to write it in a certain way. If somebody laughs at that, it's my personal feeling that music is, all art is basically metabolic, that the reason that we all write differently is because we all live differently. We have different rhythms in our bodies. If we can all phrase something, we phrase at different rates, and we hear different pitches, and things mean differently to us because of our metabolism. So I don't think it's actually such a far out thing. But in terms of egoless music, when you're, and let me start with you, Mark, and then we'll just go down the line. When you're working on a score, obviously there is a certain amount of ego, a certain amount of yourself that you bring into it, and a certain amount of sublimation that you bring into it because of the film. How do you get the best of both?
I have a little. Can you just define for me how you're using the word ego? I find these sort of psychological terms confusing. I don't actually know what that means.
It's your question. Do you want to ask? Do you want to?
What does the word mean?
I've heard it said before that there's a belief that some composers have where you take your ego out of it. And
What do you mean by ego? That's what I don't.
Film, where you step aside and you don't let the music doesn't take precedence over the film, and you step aside and you don't let the music dictate.
Well, it's sort of a loaded question, if I might say. But let me just say this: you're a film composer. It's a different gig than a concert composer. And like any job of which you seek to exchange in the marketplace, you have to be responsible to what that job is. And if you're going to be paid a salary to do a particular job, you have to do that job. And if that job means that you write the music to fit the film, and that the director hates flutes, you don't use a flute, unless you can rationally change his mind about the flute. It's sort of a cut and dried question to me. I mean, at the same time, you're an artist, so what you're offering is the job done in in the sense of artistry that you can do the best you can as an artist. I don't ever play a demo of any piece of music that I'm not going to be proud of it if it ends up in the film. So I never put myself in the position of submitting a piece of music that I'm not proud of. And part of the skill of being a film composer, and I firmly believe this, I believe that 50% of the skill of being a film composer is not necessarily having anything to do with composition, but it has to do with the ability to work in a group dynamic, for the creation of a single piece of work and be a part of that group, where you don't have to be the leader of the group, that you sign on to do your part in that group. And that's what the gig is. And quite frankly, if you don't want to do the gig, you shouldn't do it. And if I think it's that simple, really.
How do you feel about it?
Well, just to take the sort of judgmental part out of that question, I think we're craftsmen, but so was J.S. Bach, and so Bach wrote he was part of a whole. If he's writing a cantata for Sunday, he's part of a group effort. He's sublimating himself, into the task, into the text, into the task at hand, the forces that he's writing for, the demands of the bishop or whatever. So, I think it sounds like a judgmental thing, like egoless, but I think egoless in the sense that you're part of a greater whole, and obviously you're still an individual. You respect yourself as well as the holistic side of the equation. So it's both, but clearly your task is to be part of the greater good.